10 millionaires who disappeared. Welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving into some of the most intriguing and mysterious cases in history. 10 millionaires who vanished without a trace. From eccentric businessmen to adventurous sportsmen, these individuals disappeared under circumstances that have left us with more questions than answers. Buckle up as we explore the perplexing disappearances of wealthy individuals whose fates remain unknown. Let's get started. Every day, thousands of people go missing, but when one of them is worth millions of dollars, the case becomes much more complicated. More often than you might think, this occurs, and the mystery is frequently left unsolved. Number 10. Don Lewis. Absent for 16 years. Don Lewis was a self-made millionaire and a quirky guy who would dress like they were from a yard sale and carry enormous sums of money. Lewis had made his fortune in a variety of businesses, including real estate and trucking. 200 large cats now call Wildlife on Easy Street, a 140-acre refuge in Tampa, Florida, home because of the efforts of him and his wife, Carol. Don, 60, was reported missing by Carol in August 1997. The next day, his van was discovered at an airport, still holding the keys. It was discovered that 2 months before his disappearance, Lewis had applied for a domestic violence injunction against his wife, claiming that she had threatened to shoot him. Lewis's 3 first-married children think Carol is to blame, and they've even suggested that the police run a human DNA test on the meat grinder at the sanctuary. "My tigers eat meat, they don't eat people," his wife said in response to the baseless claims. Lewis, she thinks, fled to Costa Rica, where he had property. Number 9. Guma Aguiar omitted. 1 year. Guma Aguiar, a 35-year-old oil and gas magnate, landed his fishing boat on the beaches of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, in June 2012, with the engines running and the navigation lights illuminated. A t-shirt and a pair of flip-flops were found on deck, while Aguiar's wallet and phone were found on board. Nothing was found during the search for his body, and no sightings have been reported. Regarding the disappearance of the multimillionaire Brazilian-born, there is a great deal of conjecture. Due to his bipolar disease, Aguiar had been in and out of a mental health facility, and he was also about to get divorced. Because they were married before Aguiar got his fortune, his wife Jamie had been investigating ways to get around the prenuptial agreement. This led to rumors that Aguiar had voluntarily vanished in an attempt to save his $100 million inheritance. This notion gained momentum because of the fact that Aguiar's closest business partner and sister both moved to the Netherlands, raising the possibility that Aguiar has also fled there. Number 8. Camilla Lyman, aka Cam, 10 years missing. Raised on a $2.1 million estate in Massachusetts, Camilla Lyman was the daughter of a prosperous family who specialized in champion cocker spaniels. Lyman adopted the name Cam legally early in childhood and started living as a man. When 54-year-old Cam Lyman vanished in 1987, leaving behind a case full of jewelry, some cash, and clothes, there was speculation that he had traveled to Europe for the sex reassignment surgery he had always talked about. Lyman's estate caretaker, George O'Neill, continued to tend to the dogs and house without filing a missing persons report. O'Neill was also a beneficiary in Lyman's will and held power of attorney over his affairs. 10 years after Cam Lyman vanished, his body was found in his home septic tank. He was shot, and a cinder block was pressing down on his torso. Although George O'Neill was never charged with murder and angrily denied any involvement, he was found guilty of embezzling from the Lyman estate. The murder is still a homicide, even after being highlighted on Unsolved Mysteries. Number 7. Kevin McGeever, absent for 8 months. An Irish real estate magnate went missing for 8 months and was discovered, appearing disheveled and disoriented, meandering down a rural road. Kevin McGeever, 68, reported to authorities that he was kidnapped and detained in a shipping container at gunpoint. However, after he was questioned by the police, his tale began to fall apart. Eventually, word got out that he had been living in a rural part of the nation and had made up the kidnapping tale to get out from under financial strain. McGeever's company had failed, and he was thought to have been involved in real estate scams in Germany and Dubai. It seems he thought he would be reluctant to demand money from his former clients, since it could be interpreted as an accusation against them for his kidnapping. For fabricating accusations and squandering police time, McGeever was taken into custody. Number 6. 4 years missing. In July 2009, Bob Harrod, then 81 years old and just married, vanished from his California home. He had his son-in-law, Jeff Michaels, helping him get ready for his new bride's arrival. After going into town to get supplies, Michaels came back to find Harrod's housekeeper waiting outside the locked house. His father-in-law had vanished from sight. Harrod's automobile was still parked in the driveway, but his keys and wallet had vanished. Harrod was elderly and had bad vision, but he did not have dementia or any other medical condition that would account for his erratic behavior. No attempts have been made to gain access to his credit cards or bank account. Despite being a multimillionaire, Harrod had not yet included his new wife in his will or signed anything over to her. His children and he had lately gotten into a furious argument over money, with him worrying that he was giving significant sums of money to a buddy who was allegedly taking advantage of the elderly man. The son-in-law, daughters, and friend of Harrod, however, have all been exonerated of any suspicion. Number 5. The Rockefeller brothers, absent for 8 days. Shortly after returning from a business trip, rich businessman Herman Rockefeller of Melbourne, Australia, vanished in January 2010. A few days later, the 51-year-old's abandoned automobile was discovered. There was no activity on his cell phone or bank accounts. Nothing came of a rumor that the millionaire had been spotted in a convenience store close to where his automobile was discovered. Then Rockefeller's charred and dismembered body was found in a backyard full of trash 8 days after he vanished. It was discovered that the married Rockefeller had been meeting people through sexy personal advertising and having a vile double life of swinging. Bernadette Denny and Mario Schembri had met Rockefeller the night before he was murdered, and they had killed him in Bernadette's house after they had had a sexual experience. It was never made apparent why they did it. Number 4. Leonid Rozhetskin, absent for 4 years and 6 months. Russian-born American lawyer Leonid Rozhetskin amassed a fortune of several $100 million as a venture entrepreneur. Pools of blood were left behind when 41-year-old Rozhetskin vanished from his opulent home in the Latvian tourist town of Jurmala in 2008. There are many theories regarding his disappearance. These include the wealthy pretending to be dead, murder, and kidnapping. Despite being married to a model, Rozhetskin was the subject of speculations about other men, especially when he was last spotted leaving a homosexual bar in a taxi with 2 male acquaintances. His mother said that the LGBT angle was a smear campaign and expressed her belief that her son was murdered by Russian spies as a result of his threat to reveal official wrongdoing. Even though DNA testing was able to positively identify the remains discovered in a Jurmala forest in 2012 as those of Leonid Rozhetskin, the reason for his passing is still unknown. Number 3. Mo Jiwani, absent for 7 years. In 2006, Mo Jiwani, a 40-year-old rich hotelier, vanished from sight after leaving a business meeting in Toronto. His Mercedes was found adjacent to Fillmore's, a strip club in a seedy area of town. Although there have been rumors that Jiwani was a club patron the night before he vanished, they have never been verified. Jiwani was allegedly addicted to crack cocaine and had vanished for 4 days in the past. In the nearly 3 months following Mo Jiwani's disappearance, his wife was defrauded of $80,000 while trying to pay a ransom for her husband, which later proved to be a scam carried out by his friends. The money was never found again, and Jiwani's current whereabouts are still unknown. Number 2. Steve Fott, absence for 13 months. Businessman Steve Fawcett gained his wealth in the stock market. In addition, he had a passion for sports and adventure, setting 116 world records in sailing, ballooning, and flying. He completed the first solo non-stop flight around the globe in an airplane and the first solo flight around the globe in a hot air balloon. When 63-year-old Fawcett vanished in September 2007 while flying alone over the Californian Sierra Nevada mountains, it sparked what was dubbed the biggest and most intricate search for a single person in U.S. history. In February 2008, Fawcett's jet and body were declared missing, and he was formally pronounced dead. 13 months after Fawcett vanished, in October of that year, a hiker found the wreckage of his jet. Steve Fawcett's bones were identified by DNA testing as belonging to him. He had died quickly after colliding with a mountainside head-on. When he vanished, 60 of his world records remained intact. Number 1. Ambrose Small, missing for 94 years. The mystery surrounding the 1919 disappearance of Toronto entrepreneur Ambrose Small continues to this day. Small had begun his career as an usher, and over the next 40 years had earned wealth and developed an empire in theater. Small received $1.7 million for the sale of his company on December 1, 1919, and put the money into his bank account. He vanished from his office the following evening, taking with him the enormous quantity of money he had been given the day before, as well as his wife. Small was a notorious womanizer, gambler, and cunning businessman. Particularly after Small's wife Theresa offered a $50,000 prize, the case gained national attention. But no one ever requested a ransom, and no body was ever found. Ambrose Small was sighted in London, France, Mexico, and South America in the years after his disappearance, although none of the sightings were ever verified. In 1923, he was pronounced legally deceased, and the case was ended in 1960. Ambrose Small's favorite theater, the Grand, in London, Ontario, was said to be haunted by his spirit decades after he disappeared. To honor his contribution to the history of the theater, his photograph is on display in the foyer. Caroline is currently pursuing her ambition of seeing Europe on her own, having worked on cruise ships for 8 years and traveled the world extensively. Her encounters with so many fascinating individuals and locations have motivated her to write about anything and everything. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the enigmatic world of millionaire disappearances. If you found these stories as fascinating as we did, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more captivating content. Don't forget to ring the bell icon so you never miss an update. Let us know in the comments which case intrigued you the most, or if there are other mysterious disappearances you'd like us to cover. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the unknown.